जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gaurangi Benguri Parabhavangi Benguri Paragaurangi. Jaya Jagannatha Deva, Jai Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Nithai Chaitanya, Jaya Nithai Chaitanya, Nithai Chaitanya, Jaya Nithai Chaitanya. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Ananda Dev, Prahalad Narasimha, Jaya Ananda Dev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Devam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotra Sadashri Srimad Abhay Charanara Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Devam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotra Sadashri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर भक्त प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Harihi Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram Srivasangan chapter for the Srimad Bhagavatam class in Saturday morning, Ekadasi day. So happy Ekadasi to everyone. So today I have been asked to try and summarize third canto, 26th chapter, the first half. So this has, I think, 76 verses or something, so 36 verses. But Sri Hari Prabhu has been kind enough to tell me, you do as much as you can in this whatever one and a quarter hour that I can take today. And other aspect I just wanted to highlight is this topic is called Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So this has got a lot to do with the creation and therefore a little technical in one sense and maybe a little more theoretical, if I may say so, because of my knowledge also in terms of the so many very depth of detail of creation. So bear with me. I will try to do my whatever I can do best. Okay, so here we go. As usual, I will read the first one in Sanskrit. Then subsequently, all the other verses we will do as an English translation, and then I will try and explain what Prabhupada has explained in terms of the purport. Okay, I'm just sharing the screen for this. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 26th chapter, 1st verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Atatte Sampravakshyami Tattvanam Lakshanam Tatak Yad Viditva Vimuchyeta Purushaha Prakritair Gunaihi. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Kapila, continued, my dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. So, so this is the beginning of the 6th chapter, of this 26th chapter from the 3rd canto, 1st verse. Now, the previous chapter is entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. So we have actually seen in depth, what is devotional service and how it is so important to perform devotional service, and it is whose devotional service meant for in very elaboration. And here, continuing into that, now this can be divided into 2-3 sections, at least up to the 35th and 36th chapter. And I will try to give you a high-level idea of what it is, then we can get into that more depth. So initial verses, the Lord continues in the mood of the glories of devotional service, as in trying to establish the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everything emanates from Him, right? That is the logic. That means there is nothing greater than Him, there is nothing beyond Him, and everything emanates from Him. So this, he goes on in the initial stages to explain, and he again, as usual, which is more important, is why do we need to understand all of these things, right? Then what is it in it for me? All of us, whatever we do, we are trying to always see what is in it for me. By doing this, what do I get, right? So, and therefore the logic of why we are here, and then, by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what do we get and how do we make progress? What is in it for me, right? That portion is actually covered. Again, based the foundation for us to understand better. And then Devahuti puts him a question, and she tries to ask him the relationship between that Supreme Personality and the creation. So that is the second change of gear, where she brings in a question, and subsequent to that, Kapila Dev goes on to explain further about how the creation is happening. So this is the primary creation. We are not going to the creation which Lord Brahma did, which is the secondary creation, is mentioned as in Bhagavatam as secondary creation. But we are looking at the primary creation, which even before Lord Brahma appeared, what was the background. and how various, and that also divided into a couple of categories. One is how the initial, when a child is formed, it is not like suddenly, a lump is there, right? There are, right from the time when then minute something which we can't even see goes and fuses into something, and then how slowly so many things develop, which we can't actually measure. And then at some point in time, you try to see something which is concrete, right? Some of the bodies develop. I mean, some body parts develop. But even with the body parts is developed, it is a lump of matter. Then there are other subtle elements which are characteristics of the body parts, like intelligence, then, some of the sense of touch and other things, many other things which actually make the complete whole of that particular being. So then that aspect, how they are all created. And this is all explained up to at least up to 36. Of course, it goes on even up to beyond that. So this is the higher level of what we are likely to see today. But just remember, while these technicalities are there, sometimes we may not fully understand. But we need to be very clear that this is the very basic foundation, which means, like, even in today's thing, when you go to the schools or colleges, when you start studying a particular subject, even in that concept of that is introduced even in the, like, say, first standard, second standard, third standard, like that. The concept is the same, but the elaboration goes on very deeply, right? So you can do a PhD of why 1 + 1 is equal to 2, but 1 + 1 is equal to 2 is taught even in LKG or, whichever is the minimum standard, LKG for standard, they teach this. But you can go on to get a PhD to either prove 1 + 1 is equal to correct 2, or you can even prove it is wrong. I don't know, someone will prove it, because science, whatever they say also, I have seen. Sometimes someone makes a proof and then he gets a doctorate saying this is what is science and, this is the logic. After some time, another person comes and he actually proves that wrong and gives something else which is different to that. And that person also gets a doctorate. So this we have actually seen, these things happen. But till that second person's logic comes to effect, the first person is accepted as the truth and they move on. So this is going on. So the point I'm trying to make is, the knowledge can be at a very high level, summary level, and then it can be finally at the minute nth level process. If you walk into a factory, for example, you won't understand head or tail. There will be so many wires hanging all over the place. But the one who's the chief engineer will understand every aspect of it like that. So understand it that way. When we are seeing in Bhagavatam, we say, what is this? This is all. So suddenly from ether sound is coming, or from sound, from water, fire is coming, some of these kind of things. How is it possible? But this is the highest level. That is the initial stage. But how there are within that, how are the different things are happening is what we get to see, and we are actually bewildered. But if you really understand, the base is something very a truth, which is actually what is being given in Srimad Bhagavatam. And actual science also has to follow this, which we are also seeing proof today. Many of these things which are talked about later come to as scientific acceptance of this one, but there are nth level of processes in between, which we with our limited brain are not able to perceive. But here, there's Prabhupada gives nice examples. Actually, he talks about, this is how it is. And he gives examples. See, today, how are you seeing from, for example, how are you able to see the image when an image is there in US and then you are today seeing it in your television? So in between, what happened to that? So he's saying it is a conversion of that energy to this energy. And that is what is being explained here that way. So if you read in detail this one, you will actually understand today modern science is actually following this. But some of it will look like out of the world for us. No, this cannot be. How is it possible? Because today science seems to be saying something else. No, because truth is only one. It cannot be different. It can look different based on our level of understanding. So have all of these things in your mind as you may either be listening in today's whatever limited time we speak. But I would request everyone to go later and go deeper into, or not even deeper, read all of the purport of Srila Prabhupada for these verses. Sometimes as devotees, we skip these things, right? Okay, so fine, we want to understand Krishna and therefore, talk about some nice pastimes of Krishna, some other pastimes of devotees. It is very pleasing to hear, and we are only interested in devotional, means direct devotion. Why we are bothered about material creation, material universe? This is all temporary. Why I should bother? No, because this is also the pastime Leela of Krishna. Whatever I'm speaking is also from the overall summary of what we are doing. I'm not going out of the topic, because this word Leela is specifically talked about in some of the verses below, where he's saying this is the Leela of the Lord. And therefore, this Leela is as important as Krishna's Leela of his childhood pastimes, or his youth pastimes, or his Bhagavad Gita pastime, or his the Leela with the Gopas and the Gopis, with Radharani, his parents. And we generally tend to, we enjoy Damodar Leela. Yes, that is so great. But how can this Leela be any different than that Leela? Because the Lord is absolute. So sometimes our interest levels may not be very great. Even as yesterday when I was preparing, I was thinking, wow, because we read, but then we don't read it many times. I would have done Damodar Leela so many times, but this one may not be, maybe, I don't know, once or twice I may have spoken and not summarized. So it's there in us that, we are not focused on some of the Leelas of the Lord, but everything is as important, and it throws a lot of dimensions to our understanding of what Krishna's, the energies are. Therefore, please read these purports. I am just giving today very, very high level, a small level of glimpse of it. But Prabhupada, amazing. If you read the purports, you feel, wow, so amazing like that. So with this, I will continue. So now in this first verse, what we are reading, the personality of Godhead Kapila continued, my dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influences of the modes of material nature. So I don't know if you can relate this to Bhagavad Gita. He says, right, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tektva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, that means anyone who comes to know about my birth and appearance, my appearance and my pastimes, then for him there is no other birth. This is very similar to that. And he is specific here. Now I should describe what you two different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. So this is the first what do you call introduction given by Kapila Dev to his mother. And there now let's see what Kapila Dev is explaining, what Prabhupada is writing here. Example. So the first point is, as I said, understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead only through devotional service is the most practical way. And Krishna says, Bhaktya Mam Abhijananti. So, and who's that Mam? Generally, impersonalist will say, Mam is me. Me means I. And if you are reading it, it is you. So, Prabhupada is very clear. He says, Mam refers to Krishna because Krishna is speaking this, Bhaktya Mam Abhijananti. So, this is the first important sense. And how do you understand Krishna? That's the second question. So the point is, we can have knowledge through so many, like reading so many books and all that. But this devotional service, what we talked about, and understanding the ultimate truth, does not simply come by theoretical reading or understanding some text, or giving some interpretation to the text, either by ourselves or by some professional expert in grammar or an expert in some logic or whatever it is. May sound good. It looks very nice and it may be very appealing and sometimes very entertaining also. But that is that much only. So he says, how do you get that done? Is simply by doing direct devotional service to the personality of Godhead. And we in Bhagavad Gita, we have seen many of these things. He says, even if you are an illiterate person, he says, but how does he come to know? He says, I sitting in his heart will reveal the knowledge by which he can come to me. I'm not quoting the exact Sanskrit verse there, but this is the English translation. He says, I sitting in your heart, I sitting in his heart will reveal the knowledge by which he can come to me. So ultimately, it is not what I gather externally. It is internal knowledge, which even to the first original person, Lord Brahma, I mean, the first created being, Lord Brahma, it happened. He did not have any textbook to read from, or he did not speculate. The Lord actually from his heart spoke the truth. From there, Lord Brahma got that knowledge and he started working. So, and he said, Tapa, you performed meditation on me. And he did that for hundreds of years or thousands of years, post which the Lord gave him the knowledge or the procedure by which he can do the creation, secondary creation. Therefore, while all this is there, but our Bhaktyamam Abhijanati is very, very important. Then, how do you understand Krishna? Okay, this is nice, Prabhu, very nice. I get it. Now let's move on. How do I understand Krishna? So then that's the two aspects which Krishna is talking about. If you understand these two aspects, then, you can actually get liberated. He's saying, right? What is that? Then he's saying, understanding internal energy and external energy, his expansions and his incarnation. So in a summary, what does you need to understand is, you have to understand his external energy, internal energy, his incarnations and expansions. Yeah, the other day also we discussed what is the Lord's direct expansions and then the Lord's subsequent expansions, like that. We gave the definition, I forgot. Means the technical term for one expansion which is directly from the Lord. Another expansion is an expansion of the expansion of that expansion, like that. These two, while they are the same, but they are also not exactly the same. Like he gives that example where when you light this candle with, use a candle to light many lamps, the property of all the light is the same because it came from that original light. It is the same. But at the same time, the original light which had the original light is always different in one sense that it is there. So therefore, there's the slight difference between the expansions and incarnations. We need to understand that. And all of this is what actually trying to understand this is in an analytical way is what is Kapila Dev actually giving us. And that philosophy is called Sankhya philosophy. So we know Kapila Dev is famous for his Sankhya philosophy. That means for the conditioned soul, how does he understand through this logical way, step by step, from this happened, that happened, this happened, this happened. Then now we are able to relate to them nicely. So Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita explained to Arjuna about the soul and all that. There he says, up to now I have explained to you in a logical way. Now let me explain it in a different way. Like that he's saying, right? In terms of Buddhi Yoga, he says in the second chapter. So like that, here this is logical way of explaining. Krishna is trying to help understand how the soul cannot be seen, but how it can be perceived. He gives about the consciousness. And so many things he explains logically, just like you change your shirt. Your body actually, the soul actually changes the body. It is like wearing another new shirt for the soul, but the soul remains. So this is all logic. He explains it very systematically, and he says how the same person is traveling from youth to middle age to old age. So that explains. Oh yes, I think I get it. If you show your person, take your photo, you will see the photo of your family young when the child was very young, your wife was very young. Say, this is my family. Hey, is this your family? Your son doesn't look like this at all. No. This is my son, he will say. We can't sometimes make out, but he knows it is the same person that is his son. Everything has changed, but how you are relating to that same person, then say, yes, I get it. The person has not moved away, but his external things have changed. So this is logic, right? So that logical way of understanding is for the conditioned soul, and Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world, Prabhupada writes. Okay, that is all fine. Then how do I understand this logic? I am also a good logician, right? Many of us feel my logics are very strong. I can, when I see something and I see how couple of links, I can actually tell what it is. I have a very good sense of sixth sense, we say, or seventh sense, whatever sense it is. But Prabhupada explains, this understand it through the parampara system or disciplic succession. I'll tell you, I don't know if I have mentioned this earlier in some class, but it is very nice to know. Very, very powerful statement. So there was one devotee who was a Prabhupada disciple. So he was thinking, Bhagavatam, says Bhagavatam has everything. Bhagavatam has everything. That's what we say, right? Bhagavatam has everything. Then he's a Western devotee, and therefore he was thinking, therefore, when he says everything, their minds work more like, okay, therefore, that's all the scientific principles, how the rocket is made, how the nuclear atomic bomb is made, everything should be there. This is logic to understand also. This is also Sankhya to understand things logically, right? So he thinks like that, and then he asks after in a Prabhupada lecture, after it is over, he says, so Prabhupada, can we, does Bhagavatam has, all the, what do you call, technology? He meant technology means how rocket is prepared, how, aeroplane is, he said, does it technology? Even as he was talking this, before he could finish, Prabhupada lifted his head. Technology means parampara system. One word. I mean, 2 words, parampara system, he said. And then he stopped there. Then this devotee was not about technology. I am asking, do I have the modern scientific technology in Bhagavatam? And he's saying technology means parampara system. Then he writes that devotee later writes, then I didn't understand it at that point in time. But then later I was able, of course, he will be a very senior devotee in his whatever 75, 80s. But then he writes at a later matured state, he says, I now understood. It's a big statement that Prabhupada had made. That means technology means, we say, right, if you go into the whatever in the lab, there are so many processes which are there. But in reality, our mind says, I need to understand it only through that process of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you come to some stage of it. Then you understand it is at stage A. Then from there, 10 more processes are done. Then it is stage B. Then it becomes a final product like that. But Prabhupada, when he says technology is parampara system, how do you understand that intricate thing is by simply hearing from the authorized source. That's all. And that is absolute truth only coming to you. But there are hundreds of other steps possibly in between that may be relevant for someone who's materially inclined. But the end result for a spiritually inclined person is the same, and he's already got it. Why I have to go into the intricacies of how it is done? Because that is not my job, frankly speaking. Why I will bother about, going to seed the clouds? That is not my job. That is Varuna, Indra's job, and there are so many other higher authorities who are supposed to do. I have to do my job of performing yajna. That's it. Once you do that, you simply go on with your work. It is then Varuna who takes over from Indra, who takes on from there and ensures, okay, he is doing his yajna properly. I will have to provide his means. So, but you tell, no, I don't care for yajna. Now I will myself go and do this job, and I will go and seed the clouds. You know what happened in Dubai? Now, I think my understanding is they went and did manipulated the clouds, right? And then, it created havoc for them. So we are very less, absolutely very small intelligence we have. We do not know how the implications of our actions in a very larger scale. I may think this is what will happen, but it is so complex and so so vast that our brains cannot comprehend. Even though we always say, no, tomorrow I will find out. Prabhupada is very famous to say this. People will simply say, tomorrow I will find out. But today I am trying that there is no tomorrow in this sense, because this is so vast. We are like a minute particle, and we cannot really get into the absolute understanding of things. So this is very important. But then we try and we mess up sometimes. Like that is what is happening in a desert. If it is flooded like anything, if people are drowning, you can't imagine, because of the misdeeds of people with their whatever intelligence. They think they are intelligent. This is thing. So he's saying parampara system. So understand that if we are saying, or if through the parampara system, you understand that if I understand about the internal energy, external energy, its expansions and incarnation, then I will be liberated. If we take it to heart and if we work towards that, then you will be liberated. There is no question about it. This is the way we need to understand when parampara system. And Prabhupada is saying, don't unnecessarily argue. Try to understand. That's different. It's mentioned right nicely. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seviya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshana. So we need to humbly inquire. Nobody is saying foolishly accept everything, but humbly inquire. No, but how does this happen? How does this happen? When they explain with their whatever their Jnanina Tattva Darshanaka, because they have seen the truth, they will tell us this is what it is. Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhupada. This is how our mood should be. And in the process, whatever still we have doubts, Krishna will clear it from inside the heart, because Krishna cannot, it's not like a product. Okay, give me this product, I will show you physically, this looks like this, here, you take it, you give me $10. No, it doesn't work like that. Krishna is transferred from the heart of the pure devotee into our heart. So you can't externally see it. That the Lord is not visible to our common eyes, but he can be perceived from our heart, because if I have received it from my spiritual master, I can see Krishna. And that can happen only through transformation, or rather the movement of the Lord from that pure devotee's heart to my heart. Otherwise, I cannot see, not with my external knowledge. We will see this in next verses also. Maybe I will not go into depth because I'm already covering it here in that sense. So by understanding this through the parampara system, then one becomes free from the modes of material nature. In this verse, it is mentioned, right? Then you are liberated. So we are basically caught up in this bandha. We say, no, we are tied up. Bandh, what do you call it in Hindi? Like you are tied up, right? How are you tied up? You are tied up with the three gunas, the sattva, tamo, and rajoguna. They tie you up very nicely. And more we try, the more knots gets happened. So that is what it is there. But if you have to get untangled from all of this and get liberated, then understand these four things what we discussed through the parampara system, and it will help us to be untied and we can be liberated. And it is also mentioned in some scriptures that tato mam tattvato jnatva. And Prabhupada writes, by understanding Lord by various categories, one can become eligible to enter the kingdom of God. So the proof of this understanding Lord, these different categories, one can go back to Godhead, is he is substantiating with this quote, tato mam tattvato jnatva. Now, what is it that which will stop us from going there? Also, we should understand. Okay, this is fine. Then how do I, what is it that there are always do's and don'ts, right? We discussed about the do. What is the don't? The don't is, with slightest desire to enjoy or lord over material nature, there is no chance of liberation. So the point is the internal energy, external energy. When I talked about it, we need to understand what that one is. And when you understand that, then you understand that, this is not mine to be enjoyed, but on the contrary, I am to be enjoyed by the Lord. So if I try to enjoy myself the material nature, then I have not understood what is internal energy and what is external energy. Now then, how can I be liberated? He says, if you understand internal energy and external energy, then you can be liberated. So he says the don'ts, at least one main aspect is, or again, the principle don't is, don't try to enjoy material nature. That is it. So you can go on underneath that for a complete seminar. But this is at the high level. With slightest desire to enjoy or lord over material nature, there is no chance. So this is Prabhupada's statement. Now let's go to the second verse. Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I shall explain that knowledge unto you, by which the knots of attachment to the material worlds are cut. Then he's saying, okay, now I told you about this internal, external incarnations and expansions. One should know. Now I will give you that knowledge by which you can actually understand how what I mean. And therefore, with that knowledge, you can actually get out of this bandha. That means of this binding, and you can be liberated. And Prabhupada is quoting Svetashvara Upanishad 3.8. He says, Tameva viditvani mrityum eti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. So it's easy to say this, right? Simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. Easy statement. Yeah, I can see myself, my spiritual position. Yes, I am a devotee. Maybe I can think at this point in time. And seeing oneself as he is means I can see myself as he is in a mirror. And I can say, yeah, there is something beyond, but what I can majorly see is this body. And, I am, of course, a devotee. I can think like that. But it is not stops there. It has got, yes, some little truth is there, but there is so much things behind it. But we need to understand completely who am I? Am I this external body? Or even if I understand I am the spirit soul, it is half knowledge. To understand that I am not the body, I am the soul is basic, elementary from a real spiritual point of view, even though the Mayavadis may consider that as a very advanced stage. But for a devotee, understanding that I am the soul is the LKG. After that, only your real, what do you call, spiritual life starts. For them, that is the culmination, in a way to speak. So this seeing can be done by hearing from the proper authoritative source. How can I then therefore see who am I clearly? Again, coming back to the parampara system, hearing from the authoritative source. And Kapila Deva is the greatest authority because he is the personality of Godhead. And if someone accepts whatever is explained as it is without interpretation, then he can see himself, Prabhupada writes, which means if you are able to understand the Sankhya philosophy as explained by Kapila Deva, just like Mother Devahuti understood it, then we are back home back. If you are able to understand the matter that Krishna explained it to Arjuna as it is, then you are back home back. There is no difference between this Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy or Krishna's Bhagavad Gita discourse to Arjuna. Both are same. Where the Lord does not keep changing because he gets a PhD. It's not like today this PhD is right, tomorrow that PhD is right. Because the Lord is absolute truth. Whatever he says does not change with time. There is nothing like, oh, there has been some new development, sir, as a result of which we are upgrading this theory to theory plus X plus Y. No, it is always one constant. And every time the material universe is created, the same principles are applied because there is no further scope for development. It is perfect. They said, no, from him emanates everything and everything. What is that? So, Purnam, Mada Purnam, there is one nice verse. Everything coming out from this is perfect. He is perfect. Everything coming out of him is also perfect. There is no scope for, okay, let me do some more additions to that or some subtraction to that so it becomes better. No, it is already perfect. So there is no scope for tinkering further with it, right? So that is the point. So when Krishna says, maybe in Satya Yuga or Dwapara Yuga or Treta Yuga or Kali Yuga, this truth is the same. We can't say, oh, now we are in Kali Yuga, Prabhu. Let us understand differently. It is not that same thing. Many people today, when they try to give Bhagavad Gita classes and all, they try to innovate. Of course, you can try the method of innovating, how people will understand, give different examples, all are okay. But you can't change the core matter itself. But many people make it as some management principle rather than understanding the soul. So these things keep going on, but how worthy those things are, we need to understand. So that is explained by Lord Chaitanya when if you all know, right, Lord Chaitanya spent almost a month or so something, I think. He spent with Sanatana Goswami and explaining everything nicely. He gave him a class for 1 month and he says, now you go. You have got everything. I have told you everything. You go and expand it. Then Sanatana Goswami went and wrote so many scriptures. And that is the basis of our understanding. But he learned all of that in 1 month or something, just like Arjuna learned that entire Bhagavad Gita in 2 hours or 1.5 hours max in that war field. Then, Prabhupada writes a book, full book, right? We take one lifetime to read our Bhagavad Gita. And technically, even if you read 2 slokas, it will take, I think, 2 years. That is what our 1 year, right? 700 slokas. So 365 days. Okay. So 2 slokas means 1 year. Our Srihari Prabhu had put that, in Mayapur, our ISKCON, they Lake Gita, that means write Bhagavad Gita, and also Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he had said, That, if you register ourselves for Srimad, the particular, I forget the name, Lake, some name was there. So we registered in that. Then we get, a book to write and a Bhagavad Gita copy, and then one more book to write Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he said that we can write one sloka or two slokas every day, as it is from our Prabhupada's as it is book. We write that entirely, and at the end of that 1 year or 2 year, whatever period is given, we submit that in Mayapur. So, and the Bhagavad Gita, what we wrote, will be given back to us. So our handwritten copy of Prabhupada's purport, Bhagavad Gita as it is, we get back that copy, and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whatever we have written, will be kept in Mayapur permanently. That means our names are etched in Hare Krishna Mahamantra there. Your handwriting is there in that. So that is there. We can all try. Even I am also inspired to try. So we will do that. So why I'm saying this is, Sanatana Goswami was given this instruction of telling actually who you are. And then he says in that, Lord Chaitanya says, each and every individual soul is eternally a servitor of Krishna. Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnera Nitya Dasa. So this is all is our, when you see yourself, what is that sloka says? I shall explain that knowledge unto you by which the knots of attachment to the material worlds are cut. And in that, when Prabhupada is writing Tam Eva Viditvani Mrityum Yeti, means simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. How will you see yourself as it is? And how will I understand my spiritual position? Lord Chaitanya is nicely explaining. He is saying, Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnera Nityadas. That means I am my original position. That first question, what is my spiritual position? My spiritual position is I am Krishna's Nitya Dasa. That means I am Krishna's eternal servant. That's all. This is my original position. And what is my role if I am a servant? I have to serve that whole. That's all. So this is given by Lord Chaitanya, and he said, now you go and explain it deeply. And then Sanatana Goswami went and wrote. Of course, this is not just one line he told him. He gave him a 1 month of class, based on which Sanatana Goswami expounded that further. So that is the second verse. There are more things there. This position of rightly understanding oneself cuts the knot of material attraction. That is part of the sloka. Hridaya Ganti Vedanam. That means, see, the more we are entangled into this material world, the more we are attracted to things materially, then there is a knot which is formed. And this is specifically talked in terms of our relationship with our wife, mainly, Hridaya Ganti. That means there is because as we tie the knot, as they say in English, that means as you marry, then there is a kind of a knot which happens between the wife and the husband. And that is the further reason for further knots happening, because then from that you say, okay, we will do this house, we will do this children. Then for this children, we have to do this. Of course, materially, if you are looking at it. Spiritually, when you are looking at it, Grahastha Ashrama is not bad. Grahastha Ashrama may be required for most people. Very few can actually take to remain as brahmacharis. Women, of course, there's nothing called brahmacharini. There's nothing like it. Women, at least from what I know from the scriptures, are always married and they are with their spouse. So there's some brahmacharis are there, but not all men are also brahmacharis. But if you are material brahmachari, material good, that is fine. Otherwise, so that Hridaya Granti is different in the sense that is not, this one mentioned is technically only for looking at everything from a material perspective. That means my wife means to enjoy. Then with that wife, I get children, and then I build a house again to enjoy this house and show off here. See what a beautiful house I have got. You know how handsome my son is. You know what is his qualification. You know he's in America. You know people keep talking about their son in America, how he walks the dog, how he takes his this electric car and goes everywhere. All these kind of things. All the parents are so very proud of that. That is Hridaya Ganti. But here it is not about like, the real Grahastha ashrama is to see how my son is becoming nicely Krishna conscious, how he is developed nicely doing devotional service. That is different. That is taking care of a soul, not looking at him just as my son, but as a soul who has been given to me as a Krishna, as an understudy, and who I am helping that soul to progress in Krishna consciousness. These are two different, completely do different things. Externally, it will look the same. Oh, you are very affectionate to your son, you are caring for his body. This person, yes, caring for the body is part of the overall caring as a devotee, but there is much more deeper into this. Then he says, due to false ego or false identification of oneself with the body and the material world, one is entrapped by Maya. But as soon as one understands that he is qualitatively the same substance as the Supreme Lord, because he belongs to the same category of spirit soul, and that his perpetual position is to serve, one attains Atma Darshanam and Hridaya Ganti Vedanam, self-realization. This is what I have explained now. This false ego tries to keep us connected to this material world. So that which is not, right? Ego means, this false ego is defined, Prabhupada defines as that which is not. That means you believe in something which is not true. That is false ego. That I am not this body, but if I believe I am body, that is called false ego. Then what is true ego? True ego means I am, earlier we saw, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishnera Swarupahaya, Jivera Swarupahaya, Krishnera Nityadas. This is your true ego, constitutional position. But if I think I am the body and I am to be served, that is false ego. So then when he says, when one cuts the knot of attachment to the material world, his understanding is called knowledge. So this, what is knowledge? Knowledge is not material knowledge. Knowledge oneself. And how, with that knowledge, how I am able to escape from this position? Now, I am tied up inside a bottle, I am tied up with ropes, and then I have put inside some bottle and I am thrown into the sea. Is it a very good situation? The knowledge there is, how do I get out of this rope? How do I get out of this bottle? And how do I get out of the sea? That is knowledge. So, therefore, when one is freed from the false ego by the cultivation of real knowledge, he sees himself, and that is the ultimate necessity of human life. So, this is the ultimate purpose of our existence. Understand whom we are, understand ourselves in relation to the Supreme Lord, and understand our constitutional job. What is we say in office, right? What is my job description? Our job description is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, there's a variety of services that are available. That are the details. Ultimately, I need to be recruited. I should be in the office of Lord Krishna. That means in Goloka Vrindavana, which department is a different story altogether. But my ultimate aim is to join that company. Right here we say, oh, I want to join Google, I want to join this. That's all fine. But ultimately, you should join Goloka Vrindavana. That is our goal. The soul is thus isolated from the entanglement of the 24 categories of material nature. Pursuit of the systematic philosophic process called Sankhya is called knowledge and self-revelation. So now he's bringing in an element. No, the soul is thus isolated from the entanglement of the 24 elements, 24 categories. So when we are here, we are bound by these 24 categories. And of course, we will introduce one more, which is 25th element. But right now, he's talking about 24 elements. So these 24 elements are there, which is binding us inside this material world. And when you systematically pursue this philosophical process given by Kapila Dev called the Sankhya philosophy, one clearly understands everything as it is. So that is as far as the second verse is concerned. Now, third verse, I know I am going slow and there are 36, but as I told, I will not cover all 36. Let me cover as much as possible. Some verses are smaller, so we can rush through easily. Not rush through, we can go through easily. So please bear with me. Third one, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and he has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of this material world. He is perceived everywhere because he is self-effulgent. And by his self-effulgent lustre, the entire creation is maintained. See, these are very important verses. That's why Prabhupada has written such long purports, and I just cannot skip through and say, okay, let me go to the elements and things like that. So I am going through in detail. Again, backed by the conference Sri Hari Prabhu gave me, you just take it in the, how much ever you can cover, you cover. And everything is important, right? It's not about finishing a topic. It's about understanding what is written there by Srila Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada's, some of these verses, when I read, I don't understand head or tail. But when you go into Prabhupada's verses, you are able to easily remove the knots and say, wow, this is so beautifully explained like that. So let's take our time. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and he has no beginning. He is transcendent to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of this material world. So many things have been said here. He is perceived everywhere because he is self-effulgent, and by his self-effulgent luster, the entire creation is maintained. So Prabhupada relies a lot of on Brahma Samhita here. Many of these things he quoted, I am taking a few of them. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. So Prabhupada is quoted the initial one, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, the Supreme Controller. He is without beginning. Here it is mentioned, right? And he has no beginning in the translation. He is without beginning, and he is the beginning of everyone. This definition is found in all Vedic literatures. So the highest of that is Brahma Samhita, because Brahma himself gave this particular Brahma Samhita. The most intelligent living entity in this material world is Lord Brahma. And he is saying, Ishvaraha Paramakrishna Sachidananda Vigraha. So then Prabhupada explains, Brahman means great. His greatness is perceived everywhere. And what is that greatness? And he goes on to say that greatness is consciousness. And then, see, Prabhupada, the way he goes into it, so beautiful. He slowly flows into that and then says, that Brahman is the greatness. Greatness means what? It's the highest level of consciousness. And then we say, I am also conscious, immediately we think like that. Because impersonalism always gets into our head. Then he says, no, super consciousness. Right? Then you have to say, oh, am I super conscious? So when you start thinking, oh, super consciousness means what? So I can perceive whatever is not even whatever. We all see some sickness comes to us. I went through something. I know I'm not feeling well, but what is it that which is happening inside me? I am supposed to be conscious of everything around me. We say, right, inside my body, I am the conscious person. I know I can say I'm having headache, but beyond that, okay, go and take some MRI, do something. Okay, you take that. And then someone else is trying to interpret it for you. And he says, this is what it is. Okay, but that is also not true. So you are still back to square one. So when we say I am conscious of everything in my body, we are not actually conscious. Then the doctor says, no, it is idiopathic. Nobody can understand. Forget it. Okay, thank you very much. So this is, we can't really understand everything, even though I say I am conscious. Of course, I can understand a lot of it. I can say I am having a headache. I can say my eyes are not clear, or I can say whatever, I'm feeling very good today. This kind of consciousness can be there. But beyond that, we cannot know everything. But that Supreme Personality of Godhead is super consciousness, because he is situated everywhere and he can feel and perceive everything in every living entity, or in every body, or in every environment. That is super conscious. That means there is no scope. That means Prabhupada was writing, when I was reading this, he was saying, in the hair we have so many, in every portion of the hair, that consciousness is spread. That is his consciousness, not my consciousness. I don't even feel, like they say, no, the hair is dead matter, they say. But Krishna is able to feel even within that. So that is his super consciousness. So don't, Mayavadis generally try to sing, oh, this consciousness, I and Krishna is the same. No, you are not. We are not the same as Krishna, because we are consciousness, and that too limited. He is super conscious, which is unlimited. So that is the difference. Then he is also explained. So we saw this, right? He has no beginning. We saw he is transcendental to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of this material world. That is there, right? He says, Maya dakshena shuyate saracharam. That means this material nature is working under my direction. Maya dakshena. Dakshena means adhyaksha, we say, no, in Kannada. No. Adhyaksha means the president. Like that. So Maya dakshena, under my supervision. Today in politics, he says, no, under his, they say, right? Netratva, they say, no. That means under his direction. Under his direction. Maya dakshena, suyate saracharam. This entire universe is working under my direction. So if it is working under his direction, how he is under the control of material nature? That is foolish to think, right? He is the creator and he is behind that. That is to be understood. So that was discussed. Then he is perceivable everywhere because he is self-effulgent. So this is very important. Like if you really see, how am I able to see an object? Yes, yeah, I have a beautiful eyes and I have a very powerful eyes. Of course, I wear a glass, but I can still, with that glass I can see. But how can I see is because that object is being powered by a light from something else, as a result of which I can use this nice eye, which is also a great creation of the Lord, to see that one. So there is, that object is reflected in my eye, right? The light falls on the object and that bounces into my eyes, and then my eyes is an instrument which focuses that image to one point, which converts that energy through a nerve and puts it into my brain, and the brain is already told to identify, this is a dog. LKG, you say A for apple, you show apple. Oh, this means I should call apple. That is driven into my head. Then when the image of that thing, later I see any age, I say apple. Of course, later I lose dementia and I don't know what is what. So, but this is the logic. So I can understand the thing when it is reflected to me. So there is some other person who's giving the reflection. That Prabhupada explains. For example, moon is reflecting the light of the sun. So moon by himself doesn't have the power to exhibit anything. But you are able to, whatever moon is able to do, that is because he is getting the energy from the sun. And like this, it keeps on going. Where does the sun gets it? Then it finally goes to the Brahman. That means the Brahma Jyoti. That is again where that Brahma Jyoti, then there it should also have some reflection which is there. I mean, which is getting the source from someone else, it is saying. And that Brahma Jyoti's reflection, Brahma Jyoti is getting reflected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means what? The original source of all that which is getting reflected is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From his effulgence, then the sun gets the power. From the sun, the moon gets the power. From the moon, we get the power. It goes on like that. Of course, we also get directly from sun. So all of these things, because for example, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the moon is responsible for the vegetables. So we are all so-called vegetarians. Of course, we are not simply vegetarian. We are prasadam eaters. But the vegetables cannot be there if moon is not there. So moon is reflecting the rays of the sun. And because of that, you are getting the vegetable, and because of that, we are keeping ourselves very fit and fine. So there is a dependence on something else, and that something else dependent on something else, and that dependent, and finally rest with the Lord. But then who's the Lord reflecting from whom? That is why it says the first one. Come back to the circle. It says the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and he has no beginning. He is transcendent. So that means everything ends with the Lord. That there is nothing beyond him. He says, right, there is nothing beyond which there is nothing more for you to know beyond me, he says. That means he is the original source. So that self-effulgence is so nicely explained by Prabhupada. You should read the purport. What I have given is a very basic thing. 4th verse. As his pastime, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy, which is invested with 3 material modes of nature and which is related with Vishnu. I'll read again. As his pastime, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy, which is invested with 3 material modes of nature and which is related with Vishnu. So many things are covered. First thing is, as his pastime. Pastime. You have to understand what is pastime. So we all keep saying this pastime, pastime, pastime. Sometimes we also say, Prabhu, your pastime is very nice, right? But we need to understand what is the meaning of this pastime. Prabhupada explains beautifully. Haribol, can I have some water? As his pastime, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy. So this talks about how the Lord is going to get into the creation, right? Now, so he has been laying the foundation. Earlier, I was saying about establishing that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now he's slightly shifting to say how he is actually starting this creation. Next will come Devahuti's question, and then the creation aspect will start. In this verse, the word Gunamayim is very significant, Prabhupada writes. Daivim means the energy of the Supreme Personality of God. We say, no? Daivim. Daivim. We know Daivim. Daivim. Daivim be transcendental. Prabhupada gives a specific translation to this, say, the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Gunamayim means invested with the three modes of material nature. That means the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one. When that is invested with the three modes of material nature, which is Sattva, Tamo, and Rajo, then creation happens. That is the logic that is being discussed here. So Prabhupada writes, this means when the energy of the Supreme is exhibited, the three modes act as the covering. That means, so when the creation happens, see, the logic is this. We are the souls who have been with the Supreme Lord originally in most of us at least, or I don't know, this is a very difficult question to answer. Where did the soul start? So it's very difficult. Nobody, Prabhupada himself says, don't bother about where you came from. Now you are fallen, try it. If someone is putting a hand, just simply hold the hand and come back, because it's too, we have come, time immemorial, we have come, so we do not know where we originated. So don't get into that much, because there are answers to that, but knowing exactly, it's difficult to know. So let's not break our head over it. But by and large, if you see, we were all in the spiritual world. And because of our disobedience to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we had to come here. So if you ask me, Prabhu, where were you, where were you born? I will say, Prabhu, I was born in Chennai. Okay, then I know in so-and-so year, I came to Bangalore. We say like these kind of things. That is all if it is within 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever. But beyond that, it becomes difficult. So, but we have been living for millions and millions of years in this material world. So, but originally when you come, yes, I was in Goloka Vrindavan. Then what are you doing here? So then it becomes difficult for you to answer, because, I actually disobeyed, and I actually think I am better than Krishna. So I wanted to be the creator. So I come here. When you think like that, you cannot really enjoy what you wanted to do, why you came from there. You wanted to think I am the enjoyer. Now that means you should forget that I am the servant of Krishna, that I am only dependent on Krishna. You should forget that. Only then you can enjoy. Like you go to these theme parks, right? And if you are very conscious, I am big Bhagavata like that. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about some nice devotee. Of course, he will not be enjoying in those places, but I'm just giving or you take some other, let's say, a teacher and the children are going to a material school. Those teacher and children are going to the theme park. So now when you go there, the teacher is supposed to be very strict and, supposed to be holding a very sober look and all of that, generally, by and large. But then when you go into the theme park and she or he also plays with the children, she should forget I am a teacher, that, I am also a child here. And so then they can freely play there nicely. So the same thing, if I am having the memory that I am actually in Goloka, I am from Goloka Vrindavan, and I have actually been, I am a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If I understood my constitutional position, then I cannot act my desire, which is, I think I want to be the enjoyer. In that mode, it is difficult to do. So the idea is, when you come over here, you should forget that I am the, servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when Krishna is creating, so merciful, okay, you want to do that. I'm not happy, but since you want to do that, I will facilitate that process. He's saying, and therefore, to facilitate that process, he is creating this material world, but he's also giving you the memory loss that I am Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das, that I will take it away from your head. Don't worry. Your Swarupa is self-enjoyment. Enjoy. He's giving that to us. Not that he wants to put us in trouble, that because we are desiring for it. But his pastime, I will come to that. What is his pastime? So, when the energy is manifested, the three modes cover the face of the Lord, and that is why we say we are illusioned. So when we come here, we are covered. That vision that we are connected to Krishna is lost. Krishna's face is covered, and then we think, yeah, this is what it is. I am the supreme Lord. I lord it over material nature. I lord over material nature. That way we start thinking. And Prabhupada gives a beautiful example. The example of the cloud, the sun covering to the conditioned soul. The cloud, you all remember, right? When the cloud is there, up to yesterday, we were nicely seeing the sun, and sun was smiling on us, and we were in lot of trouble. But maybe yesterday evening, there was a cloud covering and we couldn't see the sun. Does that mean the sun has gone away? No. The sun is on the other side. He is able to see, and this cloud is his own creation, because the vapors from the water from the sea, the sun evaporates that water and makes that as a cloud and makes it flow in the air. Just imagine the technology. This is parampara technology also. This is there in Srimad Bhagavatam even before someone found out that the sun evaporates the water and it comes as a fluffy things, light material on the sky. From water, it goes into sky and it is like a small material. When you go in the plane, you will cut through the cloud. Nothing happens. Amazing. But that is water, right? And this is there. But that cloud is covering, that is the creation of the sun himself. But we conditioned the soul cannot see the sun. That means you cannot say that sun is not there. Like this, the Lord is there, but these three modes are like this cloud, and they cover this conditioned jiva which is sitting in this material world. So these two aspects of there. Therefore, Prabhupada is writing Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th chapter. He gives an example as a proof to say that the three modes of material nature is not controlling the Lord, but he controls that Lord. That's what, the three modes of material nature is under the control of the Lord. He is the creator of the three modes, not that he is bound by the three modes. We are Nitya Baddha, but Krishna is not at all affected by these three modes because he is actually the creator and he is controlling them. And for that example, from the scripture Prabhupada is giving, Vyasadeva in that 1st Canto, 7th chapter, it's explained there. Vyasadeva had a vision of the Supreme Lord. And you know what he saw? He saw the Lord standing in front and then the material energy standing behind him. The material energy means it is including all the three modes of material nature, the Sattva, Tamo. They are standing behind him. That means they are not in front, they are not covering the Lord. They are behind the Lord. That material nature is behind the Lord. This is the example given by Srila Prabhupada. Now let's go to the 5th verse. Okay. Divided into varieties by her threefold modes, material nature creates the forms of the living entities, and the living entities seeing this are illusioned by the knowledge covering feature of the illusory energy. Again, I will read. Divided into varieties by her threefold modes, material nature creates the forms of the living entities. Material nature creates the forms of the living entities. And the living entities seeing this are illusioned by knowledge, covering feature of the illusory energy. So simple, right? So the material nature is creating based on what? Based on the three modes, whether that Jiva is having a blueprint of a Sattva, Rajo, or Tamo. Accordingly, she is creating different varieties of bodies. The forms she is creating. And then when you see this, wow, this is great. So in material world, we see so many creations happening. Oh, beautiful mountain. Wow, what a water, whatever, the waterfall. So beautiful, such a green mountain, such tall mountain, this, that we. And we are awed by this material energy, and we think, this is absolutely material nature is the most powerful thing. And this is called the covering feature of your, this is the illusory energy, which is actually covering the real knowledge that behind this, there is this Adhyaksha. Maya Dakshena Shuyate Saracharam. That is there. So material energy has the power to cover knowledge, but this covering cannot be applied to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He cannot be covered, but we are thinking he is covered. It is applicable only to the prajas, or those who are born with material bodies, the conditioned soul. So we know this, right? All the three modes are created by him. Bhagavad Gita 7.12, this is all there. And he actually impregnates material energy who cover the conditioned soul. So we have to understand this material energy is subjugate to him. He is the enjoyer, and material energy is being enjoyed, just like you and I are also being enjoyed by the Lord. So material energy is impregnated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from that impregnation, we jivas come out into this material world with the covering of the bodies, various types of bodies based on our various gunas. And then what is this Leela? You said some pastime you mentioned, right? You should ask that question. So that is coming here. So the Leela is basically, Prabhupada writes in elaboration, I will talk very high level. See, Leela means whatever you do voluntarily, right? If it is, when I say it is my Leela, it is something which I do joyfully out of my own control, not being controlled by anything. That is a Leela. Now, if you really see Leela, in that sense, the Lord is the only one who is not controlled by anybody. For example, if the Lord wants to appear as Lord Rama, is it like he comes by because of his karma that he has been given a body called Rama, and that he has to lose his wife and he has to cry, and then he has to go there, and then he has to fight and show his valor, and then bring back Sita? No, it is his own sweet will, because he said, okay, I will do this for the pleasure of the devatas who are my devotees. That's all. So he chose his own actions, and for which what form he needs to take. He came out as Narsimhadev. It is his choice. Okay, I will kill this Hiranyakashipu. I will take this form and kill him. That is his choice. Now, can I do like this? Then I would have chosen a very, very handsome body, possibly. But the Lord says, okay, rascal, you only deserve this much. I will give you only this much. So I am sort of forced. So when a human being is performing some activity, we should not call it as Leela. Leela is only referring to the Lord. Okay, that is fine. Then why are you calling Prabhupada Leela? Leela Amrita. Then you should understand. Prabhupada clearly explains, not from that context, but he explains any activity performed completely in relation to the Lord is also Leela. So if you talk about the Acharyas, their activities are Leela. Ramanujacharya's Leela, Prabhupada's Leela, Madhvacharya's Leela, the self-realized person's Leela. That means they are 24/7 acting in the relationship with the Lord, and therefore they are one with the Lord in that sense, and their activities are also Leela. But if you are to talk about these conditioned fellows as being doing Leela, many of these bogus guru do nonsense and they say, this is my Leela. Then you end up in the prison, rascal. That is what, I'm not saying Prabhupada is saying. Right, so this is to be understood very clearly. That Leela cannot be used very loosely, but impersonalists use it loosely, and then that takes away the real understanding, and it is very dangerous. That is why today, if you see many of these bogus gurus are coming up, and then women get cheated thinking, no, this is Leela of the guru, and I need to participate in that Leela. See, this is all complete dangerous to the society. This is very important. Okay, next verse. Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of the material energy and his field of activities, and thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. So this Prabhupada is saying, this is like a person who's got a disease. if you are under the disease, or if someone is haunted by ghosts, then he acts without control, right? When you are deceased, your senses do not perform the way it has to perform. Your tongue tastes differently. Your body's temperature becomes completely different. They are not the natural, normal, how it has to work. So in that condition, or if someone is haunted by a ghost, he behaves completely differently. They are not in their control. So under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in material consciousness. That means the soul, which is actually pure consciousness, is actually working not under its control, and it is being assumed, just like a ghost has taken over or a disease has taken over. We are in a different consciousness than our original consciousness. That is to be understood. Whatever is done under the influence of material nature is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated. So this is the one portion of the explanation here. That he says, as I said, the soul is pure consciousness or Krishna conscious. But when a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness, or he is under a diseased condition, or he is being taken over by a ghost, or whatever we want, we can think. But that is not pure consciousnness. Then how can I rectify this, sir? Can I kill this consciousness? The question comes, right? Anything which is wrong, you destroy it. Why have this wrong elements? Destroy it. Better not to have it here. No, therefore, the consciousness is a symptom of the soul. It cannot be killed. Soul cannot be killed. Then how can the consciousness which represents the presence of soul be killed? Therefore, it can be purified. That is the process. So when purified, he can be liberated. What is that purification? Prabhupada asks, he says, don't act in material consciousness, but act in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, if we are able to act as Krishnera Nitya Das, or in other words, if we are acting for Krishna in Krishna consciousness, then automatically our consciousness is removed from this material conception to the spiritual conception of our constitutional position. In that state, we are automatically cured of our deceased condition, of our ghostly condition, or whatever wrong understanding of what we are. That happens. That is verse number 6. Verse number 7. Material consciousness is the cause of one's conditioned life, in which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Although the spirit soul does not do anything and is transcendental to such activities, he is thus actuated by conditioned life. So here is where Prabhupada talks about the Leela. In detail, I have spoken about it, so I will I've spoken the earlier where the Leela was mentioned. I will not go more deeper into this. And Prabhupada is saying, so just to extend what I was talking about the Leela, therefore, I cannot call myself whatever my material activities as a Leela, but I should understand I am bound up. So it is not voluntarily I am acting, I am being forced to act. Then how can I call it Leela? Now, and it is very difficult for me to get out of this thing, because this Maya or the material world is so strong and insurmountable, right? Arjuna is saying, hey, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. He says like this. And Krishna says, the more you try to get out of this material entanglement, more you get sucked up into it. He says that, right? But how can you get out of it? By surrendering to me, it becomes easy. Just like a calf's footprint. The material world, all the problems become like a calf's footprint. If it is filled with water, you can easily jump over the other side. But if you don't take this shelter of Krishna, which could be like the footprint of a calf's footprint, it becomes like a big ocean. You cannot. There are so many sharks, so many things. You can't cross over to the other side. Not practical. But if you take the help of Krishna, it becomes like that. The footprint of a calf, that you can easily cross over like that. So therefore, we cannot call ourselves Leela. We are controlled. And how can we get out of this control is when you act in Krishna consciousness, you also are, the tangles, whatever the knots are removed, and you actually become liberated, and yours becomes a Leela. Prabhupada writes in summary, The suffering of the conditioned soul is due to his attachment to material nature. This attachment should thus be transferred from matter to Krishna. Ultimately, this is the one line. But if we get it, no need for anything further understanding. But to understand that only, we have to read so many things. 8th verse. The cause of the conditioned soul's material body and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. Again, here Prabhupada continues that Leela only. So here, in summary, I will talk 2 points which I noted down from this. He explained that Leela means voluntary, but a conditioned soul is not voluntarily getting a body, which is what I was saying. We are getting what we are getting based on our past action, which is forced upon us. However, he can choose his destiny once he chooses it. He has to suffer the consequences. If he chooses Krishna, it will be good. So that means we say, no, in material world, we say, hey, your destiny is in your hand. That is true, even in spiritual life. What I am today is because of my past. But what I will become tomorrow is in my hands today. That means if I chose, after understanding Srila Prabhupada's, or by trying to understand Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and in the Parampara process, I can change what I will be in the future. Yes, I still have a lot more karma to go. That's okay. But Krishna will make arrangement for me that it is changed in a way that I continue this journey of devotional life. And therefore, even if I am destined to become an animal because of my past action, but if I have taken up Krishna consciousness today, then Krishna will make it very favorable for me to get another human body in my next life. Krishna says, no, in that Bhagavad Gita. Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. What is the meaning of that? What is that mahato bhayat? That I can go into the animal kingdom. But if you have done swalpamapi asya dharmasya, if you have moved forward in this dharma of understanding Krishna, even a little bit, then you are saved from becoming an animal. So this you should connect and say, even if I have a karma to become an animal, but when I am taking up Krishna consciousness, that is put off hold. But if I lose my Krishna consciousness and go back, that will come back and then I will become an animal. But up to that point, if I am transferring now to devotional life, I don't get that animal form. Krishna will give me an environment in which I am born and take up further devotional service and move forward. So this is there. So your destiny is in your hand. But once we chose that destiny, then the action is in our, we need to follow the process. Like if I chose a material destiny, I can't say I should become, if I don't have a destiny to become a millionaire, whatever I try, I will not become. So I have chosen my destiny. This is what I will get. How much ever you keep scrapping that thing, ATM machine, you go and scrap, it will not come. Whatever you have money only will come. So this is important. This is verse number 8. 9. Devahoti said, now comes the question of Devahoti. Okay, having understood all this, he comes further deeper to say, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and his energies. For both of these are the cause of this material, cause of this manifest and unmanifest creation. I'll read again. Devahoti said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and his energies. One portion. Explain the characteristics and energies of the Supreme Person. For both of these are the cause of this manifest and unmanifest creation. Because that is the cause of this manifest and unmanifest creation. That means the world is created, there is activity, then it is annihilated and it is remains silent. But for both these situations, what is important is that personality called Godhead, and what is his character by which he is making all these things happen. His character and his energy, right? So I have a character. I have a character of XYZ, and that character has to be revealed through my some action, right? Like, if I am a fool, I have to speak. My character is foolishness. And how will you know my foolishness? When I speak. So this is character and my energy, which will tell what is my character. So that is what it is. And this sloka, Prabhupada explains, is actually the relationship between the Lord and the material nature. So she wants to understand that. And Prabhupada explained, material energy is subtle and is sat, while manifestation is gross and is non-existent or temporary. So this is now coming to a little more detail. Material energy is subtle and is sat. So if you have to see material energy, when say this is the energy of the Lord, we say, right, the Lord has three energies. One is inferior energy or material energy. Other one is marginal energy, which is the living entities. Then there is inferior energy or the material nature. So now the distinction is made between this inferior energy and the actually the distinction is made in the sense what is the source and what is the result of that. The source is basically the material energy, which is the Lord's energy, but that source creates what? The what do you call uh, the manifested material, what we call Prakriti. So the Prakriti is actually temporary. That means it is created and it is destroyed. But the source of that creation is the material energy that is permanent. Therefore, that material energy in the subtle form, that means the source of that material energy is Sat. Sat means truth. While manifestation is gross. When it manifests into the what you call Prakriti, that is called Asat. Asat, we say, no, the Mayavadis call it Sat. Everything is actually false. Nothing is true. But that is not correct from a Vaishnava understanding. Vaishnava understanding is, it is not that it doesn't exist, but it is temporary. And therefore, we call it false. So false means it is not that it doesn't exist. If someone slaps me, I do get pain. This is not false. Mayavadi says this is false. You don't bother. No, I do get pain. This is true. But this pain is temporary. After a few minutes, that pain will go away. Right. Therefore, it is not the most important thing. Yes, it is there, but it is there. You can't deny that the pain has come. It came and it went. Therefore, it is temporary. So, Prabhupada gives this example. The mother and father are eternal, but sometimes the mother begets a child. So beautiful. See, now you can easily relate. That means Krishna and material energy are permanent, the mother and father. Correct? They are there, permanently there. But the manifestation of them is that child. Sometimes the mother may beget a child. Like this, when the creation happens, there is this manifestation which happens for all this 14 planetary system and millions of such 4 planetary systems, and the creation manifests. So this is actually temporary, the manifestation. But the relationship between the husband and wife, that is permanently there. The child may come and go in between. Like this. So this relationship, Devoti wants to understand. How do I understand this? Because that is the source of all our existence. So that is being discussed here. I will discuss for another 5 minutes and stop it. I think you'll all be too much philosophy and not much Leela in the real sense of, not real sense in the sense of some pastimes and all that. I'm sorry, because this vast subject needs to be seriously understood rather than having some understanding through the, what do you call, specific activities of what we call exchanges between the Lord and his devotees. This is a different kind of exchange between Lord and his material energy, or rather his energy. We are only up to the 11th verse right now. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called Pradhana. It is called Prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. So now we are coming to the different aspects, different what you call components of this creation. So I will, give me a second. Mm. Mm. So the Lord points out material nature in its subtle stage, which is called pradhana, and he analyzes this pradhana. What is this pradhana? Pradhana, they say, no, it's the substance. So the explanation of pradhana and prakriti is that pradhana is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of the material elements. That means this pradhana contains everything that is required for the creation of this world. That's way you understand it. That's it. There's nothing much to understand. That means if you have to create something in the factory, then you need so many components, right? So a summation of all of this put all together in one basket is called pradhana. That's all. Understand it that way. I don't want to go in more detail because it will confuse us beyond a point. And he actually talks about the difference between pradhana and how impersonalist looks at it and all that. That I suggest you do individual reading. Otherwise, this is 1 hour class by itself. So we will not go there. So Prabhupada says the actual meaning of pradhana is given here. He says when the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place. That means when you put all those materials that is required to create a car in a basket, does a car gets formed? It is not there, but all the elements which are required to make that car is in that place. That if you understand it that way, it is called pradhana, right? But when it is when the car is manufactured, that's different thing that we will see. How does it happen? Pradhana is not the time element because in time element there are actions and reactions. So pradhana does not include time. Understand that much. Pradhana is before mixing time into that one. It has just got all the elements in place. Because when time comes, over the period of time, the assembly of that car happens. So the time comes later. But at this point in time, time is not there. It is all in one basket. That is called pradhana. And he's also going on to say the jiva is also not part of the pradhana. Because the jiva comes into the play after the car is manufactured, the driver sits inside. Up to that point, the driver has no role to play. So don't think pradhana includes jiva. So that is the other thing. Nor is it the jiva or marginal potency of living entities or designated conditioned living entities, because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. One adjective used in this connection is nitya, which indicates eternally. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is pradhana. That means the material condition, that means the border between spiritual and material, at that place where everything is assembled for the creation of the material world, that point is called pradhana. This is, I hope you understand in a high level, that it is as I said, right, when the man and woman combine, we don't immediately see the result. But there is something which has happened. There is some small, invisible two objects mixing. We don't know what that is. So like that. But here, this example, as I told, all the ingredients are assembled in one place. They have still not interacting. The assembly process has not started. And who is going to use it is also not in that at that point in time. It is that spot, that basket, which is called pradhana. So this is the verse. Then, okay. Next one. I will do just one more and I will stop. We are into the 11th verse. I think I have done 1/3 almost. The aggregate elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 subtle elements, the 4 internal senses, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 outward organs of action are known as the pradhana. So now go into the components. So as I said, I put all the things inside the basket of making the car, right? Okay, what could be those things? Okay, I need to have some tires. I need to have gear. I need to have glass, whatever, the windshield, this, that. So now the components of that pradhana is being discussed here. It talks about, Prabhupada writes, according to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of the 24 elements described herein is called the Yonir Mahad Brahma. The sum total of the living entities is impregnated into this Yonir Mahad Brahma. Now comes the personality of the individual soul. That person is fused into this Mahat Tattva. And they are born in different forms beginning from Brahma. Now comes the secondary creations hero. Brahma not comes means at this stage only Brahma will come. Up to this, Brahma is not at all in the picture. Beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures, the sum total of the 24 elements, pradhana, is also described as Yonir Mahat Brahma. It is the source of the birth and sustenance of all living entities. That means from this pradhana, which consists of these 24 elements, the car is made. That means the body is made, not just this human body, all types of body is made. And then this living entity is infused into that body, and then he is given freedom. Okay, now you go and enjoy. So this is the thing of the creation. I will stop here. We are just getting, as I said, we are getting into the third stage of this. Devahuti's question came. The third stage we have come, and how the different components are now manifested. From unmanifested state, how it is all manifesting one by one by one by one. This will be very interesting as you go through it. So I stop here. It's already 30. If there are any questions or comments, we can take. Hare Krishna. I hope I have not really bored you beyond a point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, what is the difference between Mahat Tattva and Pradhana?
What are the different
Mahat Tattva and Pradhana? Is there any difference between Mahat Tattva and Pradhana?
So literally nothing much, Prabhu. Okay. You know, that is the beginning spot, and from that comes the Prakriti. So there is nothing much. Actually, in one of these verses, Prabhupada writes about it. If you see the previous one, but there is nothing much different.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
He uses the word. In fact, I was seeing that what the specific question that you asked, but I didn't find any major difference between these two. They may be interchangeably used also. Because in one of the purport, Prabhupada writes about that. I remember distinctively. Even here is. One may argue that the Mahat Tattva is also different from Pradhana because it is in the Mahat Tattva there are manifestations. Like this is writing, and later that means he's saying you may argue, but that is not the case. They are mostly the same.
Got it, Prabhuji.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Any other comments, questions?
Prabhu, can I share one comment?
Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhu. I mean, generally devotional service, we think it's on a sentimental platform. But after today's class, it's very, very deep and a lot of philosophy is there. So it's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. That is what sometimes we think, oh, this is very high level, we keep it. But actually, Krishna consciousness comprises everything, Prabhu. There is nothing beyond Krishna. So everything, for that matter, even some cheating is happening somewhere. Krishna says, I am the cheat of the cheating, right? I'm cheating of the cheat. So, but that requires our maturity to understand the whole thing and not exclude anything from Krishna. That doesn't mean I'm saying we should go about cheating. But understanding that everything is actually within Krishna is important. So you brought out that point that, sometimes we skip, oh, this is all not very important. So nice. You read the purport, I'm telling you, very, very blissful reading these portions. Thank you for bringing this out. So Gita Lekana, that's what some comment is there on the thing, what I was not getting the exact name. So Gita Lekana. So we can write Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada book. I mean, Prabhupada's commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And, we can submit it in Maya. Thank you for giving that information. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Shloka and translation, Prabhu. Not purport is not.
Not purport, correct. I missed to mention that. So we have to write the shloka and the purport for all the 700 shlokas. Purport and translation. Sorry, the shloka and the translation, not the purport. Hare Krishna. Stand corrected. Okay. So if there are no further comments, questions, Prabhu, you can take over.